Hello and welcome to the U.S. Army Presents Reload Collegiate CSGO Invitational. We are in day number 3. That's going to take us into Group C of this 8-group series. It's a lot of content for Counter-Strike, all collegiate, all the way. I'm Corey Dunn. I'm joined here with Jonathan O as we're about to kick off another day. Another day. Oh, so good.
Seems like we didn't even leave. I feel like the only thing that's really changed is a little bit. Maybe my hairstyle's gone a little bit frizzier and my voice has gone a little bit raspier. But other than that, here we are again, day number 3.
Yeah, no, so that's just, it's been an exciting time for us so far. What we've mentioned throughout both day 1 and day 2 is that, we don't necessarily know everything about each one of these players, but we're learning. Every single day we learn something new about each of these teams, which will lead up into a really solid 16-team bracket. But let's go ahead and break down for those of you that have just tuned in for the very first time. Here is how the format and the prize pool all shapes up. And so we'll take a look here. Right, you see that we started off with 28 collegiate teams. That has now been narrowed down to 20, I think it's 25 now. So as we've lost 3 teams out of the mix. But we started off with 28 collegiate teams from the central and eastern region, divided into 8 different groups. 8 days of group play lasting through until May 4th. So that's Group H, which will be on May 4th. 2 teams from each group will advance into the playoffs. And then we wrap things up from May 5th to May 10th with a 16-team playoff bracket. It's all double elimination, and the finals will be on Championship Sunday on May 10th. The prize pool breaks down like this: $3,000 for first place, second $1,500, and third $500. All matches broadcasted right here on twitch.tv/esportsstadium. Every single match. That's crazy to think about it. But again, here's just kind of a visual cue of what everything looks like for these 2 weeks. Again, group play started on April 27th. That was the day after what we were supposed to actually really host the LAN event portion of this before everything came into the situation. So, again, May 5th through May 10th is the playoffs. One thing to call out, though, is that this event wouldn't be possible without the U.S. Army. We have a exhibition match that will be tentative to start at 5 p.m., which is right before the grand finals. And that will be the third place team versus the U.S. Army CSGO team. During the playoffs, we'll actually be joined by a commentator from the U.S. Army esports team. His name is Corey Bergstrom. He is 8-track. He'll be joining us in each of the afternoons for the playoff brackets. It's going to be a lot of fun to be able to chat with him, just kind of showcasing all the things that are possible with U.S. Army esports. If you look over here as well, you can see follow all of the action at brackets.esportsstadium.gg. That's how we'll stay in tune throughout the entire time frame. And just get another recap of all the different teams that are here at the event. This is where we started, and these numbers will slowly dwindle away down to 16 teams. We're going to start off with 28 like we have, and we're going to lose 12 of them along the way.
Exactly, Corey. So the teams that we have lost along the way are Texas A&M. We saw them fall on the first day, and yesterday we saw 2 Oklahoma teams, Oklahoma State and the Miami. Hold on, I'm getting mixed up now. It's Tulsa University was there. You see at the bottom of your screens, and we still got a lot of competition left in the pool. However, so some of your favorite teams that you might see on here have yet to play or have already played. So keep up with all the action. As you see, Corey's mentioned the brackets many times. Brackets.esportsstadium.gg.
Let's go ahead and take a look now at Group C as how this one plays out. We've got 3 teams that are in this bracket. We've got VCU that has the higher seed. They're going to start off the day with a bye. That's going to allow them to advance. All they have to play, just like UConn did, I apologize, just like RMU, Robert Morris University did, that was actually, they started off and they only had to win 1 map and they won it decisively. And so VCU has the chance to do the same. Georgia Tech and Pitt, they'll start off the day at 1 p.m. That will be right here. That's a best of 1. For those of you that have just joined us as well, this is for all matches that are upper bracket rounds, they are all best of 1s. All lower bracket rounds are best of 3s. That allows us to make sure that all teams have a fair shake at it, where they have the ability to, if they do get eliminated from the tournament, they are getting eliminated from the tournament from a best of 3. So that's how all of these things are going to be panning out. We'll be paying attention very closely to these brackets throughout the day. John, what are some of the matches that you're really looking forward to seeing between these 3 sets of teams here?
Well, with VCU being on the top side, they're having their bye. I'm curious to see if they're able to live up to the performance of RMU. They're the only other team that's had a bye so far in this tournament. Looking at the results on Pitt side in the CSL standings, they are 11-1. So it seems like they're going to be a team that's going to have a lot of fight in them. I couldn't find too much around G Tech, but I think if that's anything to know, that last time we saw a team go, it was Texas A&M, and they put up a very good fight against. Let me just see here so I know who I'm referencing. It was Texas A&M and St. Clair, and St. Clair had the better record in their standings, but Texas A&M took it, and which they went to the best of three decider, and St. Clair ended up walking with it. But still a good series in that
Yes.
bracket.
Yeah, so another thing to take into consideration for those that don't know, that Georgia Tech is very close to Turner Studios, which is actually where E-League is hosted. And so again, whenever I'd produce shows there at E-League, it was really cool because you'd walk out the door and you'd see Georgia Tech right there. So that's something to kind of look at as well. So there's a lot of really good games that are happening. So esports is close in proximity, just like us. We'll see teams like University of Texas in Arlington. They'll be facing off UTD that's close by, as well as University of North Texas. These are three kind of local teams to the stadium, and we'll see them playing on later on in the tournament. I'm looking forward to seeing VCU. I think VCU, of course, will advance. That's my gut feeling. Then I really there's kind of it could go either way. Currently, right now, Georgia Tech. This is kind of a notice. We're looking for a fifth player because he was supposed to be on board with us, and they've kind of been trying to figure that out. And so we'll make sure we stay tuned with that. We'll get those kind of things figured out. But so if they have to play with a sub, this crucial point, then I would expect that Pitt is probably in a better case scenario here. So that's what we'll be looking for. But there's a lot of games that are going to be played today, a lot of Counter-Strike to talk about, and more importantly, what I'm excited about the most here, John, is getting to learn about these players. We've seen so many different play styles already throughout this tournament. We've seen some very methodical play, very by the book. We've seen some just no holds barred, like just going at it all the way. And so that's what we're seeing across the board here at the tournament, which has just been fun to watch.
And I totally agree. And I think the storylines across the board is something that's so interesting. As you mentioned, we've seen so many different play styles. Even notably, in some of the play styles we've seen in some of these players, they're not even in the tournament anymore. The number one thing that I thought of was Calm from Texas A&M, dropping 42 on his first map.
Yep,
but they're
insane.
not even in the tournament. So we've seen huge stand-up performances across many players, across many teams. Some of them even being so good that they moved on definitively in their groups. But then sometimes we saw Hamza yesterday on train going absolutely nuts, getting over 30 kills for himself. But then their team getting defeated 16-2 and then 16-1 respectively. So we have all these storylines for all these players. I am super excited for May 5th when we see the whole brackets. At that point, we've got stories for every team. We've got the pick spans. We know map picks they're comfortable with. We know exactly what players to keep an eye on, and that's the fun of the collegiate scene, I think.
Absolutely.
Having so much representation across the nation, you can just see all different kinds of play, all different kinds of styles, and ultimately what's going to come out in the end.
Yep. So for those that don't know this, we are here at the Esports Stadium Arlington. We are, of course, keeping our social distancing as well. We are also have been maintaining keeping our mask when we're in the production room, talking with one another. We are taking this uber serious along the way, and of course, this is an online tournament, and so we're also focusing on competition integrity as well. We are been partnered with Faceit to help us with these servers, getting coordinated and getting into all these different games. NACCS. The North American Collegiate Counter-Strike group, they've been awesome as well. They've been helping us through this process, helping us validate each of the players that are playing on these teams, as well as helping us administrate the tournament too. So shout out to those guys as well. We've got our first matchup of the day here for Group C. That's going to be Georgia Tech facing off against Pitt. We'll find out how this one shapes up and how this whole tournament is going to kick off right after the break. Visit GoArmy.com and learn about 150 different career opportunities available now. Esports and the U.S. Army working together to make things better. Again, welcome back to the U.S. Army Presents Reload Collegiate CSGO Invitational. As map number 1 of day 3 in Group C will be kicking off here in just a moment. We've got Georgia Tech. We've got Pitt. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rosters and how these are going to be. Actually, first, let's look at the schedule. Let me check and pull that back for a second. Let's look at the schedule of how this day is going to play out, and then we'll dive into the teams in a second. So first things first, you've got Georgia Tech versus Pitt. That's going to start at 1 p.m. The winner of that matchup will then face off against VCU at 2 p.m. And then finally, we'll wrap up the day at 3 p.m. with our final best of 3 to determine who advances into the playoffs. So we only have 3 matches today, and we'll find 2 winners that will advance into the playoffs. We'll see which way this shapes up for these teams. But first things first, we've got Georgia Tech. As they're right there on your screen, you've got Chris. Chris, I think, was actually the one. He's the captain of the team. You've got Danny, Jay Park, as well as Lucas and Scotty O, as they'll all be joining us here for Georgia Tech. We'll learn a lot more about them as we watch some of the first games that are playing here. On the flip side, you've got Pittsburgh coming in here, and they, of course, are all actively playing. They didn't even have time to go and take headshots. They are always playing Counter-Strike, and they're always playing in their Pittsburgh uniforms. You've got Hanner Katz, Magister, as well as Nathan Swanson and Perry and Stan ZQ. So we're going to learn a lot about them. They look super professional in that photo, and I'm loving that. Sometimes you can tell a lot by some headshots. We saw that earlier with Miami University. They all had their own esports poses. We'll see how these guys shape up. And of course, we look at some of our pick bands for today, where we're starting off here. It is a best of 1. This is upper round 1. And the first map that was banned, you'll jot down your notes while I talk through them. You got Vertigo, Overpass, and Train were all banned by Pittsburgh. And then Georgia Tech, Inferno, Dust 2, and Mirage. Ooh, I'm liking this. Actually, Georgia Tech banning Mirage, which then left Nuke available. And so we're going to start off on Nuke. So I'm gonna love this. I actually talked with our observer about it, Jordan, how difficult this is. Nuke is a very difficult map to observe. It's actually one of those maps, and really the reason why is because it's not just 2 tiers, it's 4 tiers of different levels that you have to be able to manage as you're observing those games. So it's gonna be a tough one. But what do you think of those kind of overall map picks? What's your quick assessment there?
Well, there's a lot going on here, that's for sure. They banned out Inferno Mirage late, but now we see ourselves on Nuke. So we've always been seeing the Train Nuke combination being pulled out here, but it seems like Dust 2 taking a little bit more priority on that, I suppose, in the ban. So Vertigo being the very first ban is not necessarily too surprising for me. As we mentioned, that's one of those kind of gimmicky maps, so to speak. But I'm not really sure what to make of this, Corey. It's a little bit early, other than I think Nuke it's gonna be different. We haven't even seen Nuke so far this tournament, so just to run through the maps we have seen. We've seen Mirage, Inferno, Overpass. Then we saw Vertigo, Mirage, Inferno, Mirage, Train, and Overpass. So the first time we're seeing Nuke, and starting to get a little bit more diversity into the map pools across the board. And so I'm curious to see how both of these teams play it out. This is usually one of those map picks that's one team is very good at, and the other team's a little bit shakier, and maybe a pub style is going to come through on the side of Pitt or Georgia Tech. So ultimately, I think that we'll see different play styles here regardless of the map pick.
Yeah, so I was looking forward to seeing a map like Nuke. Nuke's actually has been one of my favorite maps for a long time. Watching from back in Counter-Strike 1.3, where we used to have a big rock and a little rock, and you actually see a lot of different unique angles, different picks that could happen. Of course, now we've got Marshmallow and the water tower. There's so many different other variations. You have different types of routes that you can take, but it's still one of my favorites to watch and still to be able to compensate, because it allows for different play styles. It allows for those, if you're talking about ramp or even kind of pushing in there towards the hut, it allows for players to be aggressive, allows them to be able to push in. It allows you to also have set smokes and flashes. It also, you've got on the outside, you can see oppers. They could be either leveraging from CT Heaven, or they could be over there towards Big Garage and making shots from there. So there's a lot of variables, and that's one of the things I've been a huge fan of Nuke for a long time about.
I think the name of the game here, Corey, since we don't have as much information as we do with other teams right now, I think the team that has the stronger A hit is going to be able to take it in this one. And we're just saying that that's where we see either the really fast rounds where they just blow a grenade using the door to get through Squeaky, using the utility going through the vents, trying to get someone on top of Hut, maybe even trying to close off Heaven. We'll have to see. And so I think the importance here is who's going to be able to control the A hits more and who's going to be able to execute on the A hits better. Because B, seeing them take long outside, I think could also be an interesting strategy. But I really feel like the catalyst here is just the A hit.
Yeah, there's sometimes you'll see a little bit of control that's happening on the outside, where they'll have set smokes. You'll see it over and over again. You see a lot of professional teams that basically throw the same smoke every single game, every single round. And the reason for that is that at that point you have no clue of when they're actually hitting outside. So you have enough to be able to smoke off towards secret and make your way there. And you may not press, you may not be aggressive that round, but then they after that point they become a little bit more lax and they on the counter terrorist side. And then at that point you decide to rush it. Well, guess what? You're still not going to be contested. They're not going to spray through that smoke every single time. And that's what you're seeing a lot from the pro side. So we'll see if they try to be able to do the same thing. There's a lot of set smokes, a lot of smoke set flashes as well on this map. So we'll see how many of them actually know.
And since this has kind of been the combination we've been saying with Train and Nuke being the two maps, should we expect a more CT-sided heavy map, just like we did with Train?
It would be my expectation because it does rely on a lot of execution. But of course, we don't know a lot about these teams. If they've got some really good executes, it does change the way that the maps are being played. But I would say it is still a CT-sided map. Probably 9-6, 10-5 is probably closer what we'd see in favor of a CT side. But of course, we'll watch how the map actually plays out. All right. Seeing how the games are, how everybody's getting set up here to be able to be in the server. They're all working through trying to get everybody into our voice channels right now as well. It's a requirement that comes into this tournament is that they need to join our voice channels, and the reason for that allows us to be able to support the players as they have any problems. We can immediately adjust. We saw that from yesterday. Sadly, it's a great example, but not a great circumstance. As yesterday, Tulsa, there is actually a very severe thunderstorm that turned into a tornado warning. We were able to communicate directly with the Tulsa team. They needed to take shelter in place at that point. This is a very serious matter. We live in North Texas, so we absolutely understand the severity of tornadoes and how random certain things could be, so you never know what might happen. But then it also allowed us to communicate directly with Miami as well. And so we were talking with them. I was also be able to gauge their temperature while we were there. So that's why it's so important for these teams to join into our Discord channels to be able to talk it all over. So we'll wait for those players to get joined in with us, and then we'll be able to start these matches. But again, Group C, upper round 1B. You can follow us along at brackets.esportstadium.gg. Make sure you follow us on Twitter as well at Esports Stadium. We'll keep you in the loop throughout the entire broadcast. We will be clipping different shots that are happening throughout the event, and we'll keep you posted as we see fit. All right, Nuke. I think this is going to be a fun map to really be able to cover and focus on. We'll probably focus a little bit more on the terrorist side for a little while, just so that way we can see how the setups are really looking.
So Corey, just on a side note here, we know you're a big fan of the Scout and the AWP. How much of an impact do you think having a strong AWP or Scout for either team will be going into this map?
You can play it in a series of different ways. So you can have John. I think you can have it in you definitely don't try to leverage a Scout too often on a map like this unless it's the second round. But outside of that, you'll see a lot of a very strong AWP fight that's happening on the outside. Sometimes you'll see some fights that will happen with an AWP on ramp. I've seen more and more lately where we'll see an actual rifle, an assault rifle, and possibly two players playing towards ramp and just really focusing. And you'll see a very passive AWP coming in, watching from CT Heaven. So we'll see. I don't think it's mission critical that they have to have an AWP, but I do think it helps a lot.
Well, that is some good insight to know, and I think the only real position that I've been comfortable physically playing with is ramp, so we'll have to keep an eye out there. And ever since the Krieg nerf, I know that's been a little bit harder to hold. Obviously, you don't start with the Krieg as the CT side, but if you're able to find one, then that position just goes way harder to overtake.
Which I was happy for a while before the nerf. I mean, watching Astralis changing their mindset and saying, you know what, We're going to stay with using an AK. An AK is more powerful in certain cases than the M4, but it's more predictable at that sense. You don't want to provide the defending team with a better weapon. That's just the case that you look out for. And so that's where we started seeing them, where they're like, well, we're not going to give them that upper hand with the Krieg, and so they started just buying AKs. Disregarding the fact that a Krieg may be better for them, but the reality is you may lose that weapon at some point in time. And so that was kind of a smart play. Of course, that's been changed since then. I was really concerned for a little bit before we started this tournament because of several different reasons as the players are loading into the server. One of which I was very concerned about was the jumping deagle. That was going to be scary for me for a while, and we're just not seeing that, which is good. The other part of it was information. I was a little concerned about some of the data and things that were shared. I appreciate one of the things that a lot of groups talk about how Valve is not as in depth with Counter-Strike, but the reality is they do communicate whenever it's necessary. They don't necessarily go above and beyond. We do not have a TI or the international for Counter-Strike, which you feel like they should, but or compendiums or anything like that goes into the majors. With that said, though, they do allow us to be able to control our property. And what at that point, which is really beneficial to us, we wouldn't have some of the tournaments that we have if they controlled what our product was all about. We wouldn't have ESLs. We would not have a Flashpoint being created. We will not have this tournament happening right now if Valve really was kind of controlling every aspect of it. There's so many different things that should be thankful for as they create things, but more importantly, what we're thankful for is the fact that CSGO does reply back and does answer the questions whenever that could have got completely messed up at that point. We immediately, within minutes of that being announced, I was getting spammed with a bunch of different information. What are we doing? How are we handling it? And I told them we'll wait for a second because I was waiting for that initial response that was coming from CSGO Dev, and we knew it was, at least I had confidence that I knew it would come in, and if they would be the ones to tell us this is a serious matter. Now, if they went dead silent, I would know it's a problem. But the fact is that they did respond pretty quickly, and we all feel comfortable in the scenarios where we're at. That was old code, which is good, and that's which is where it looks like we've now got all 10 players that have joined the server from our viewpoint, and so we'll be waiting here in just a second for them to find their sides, and then we'll be hopping into the game.
So they've been warming up a little bit, Corey, and it's funny. The second that I was looking down at the screen here because I was just laughing to myself. You were talking about the jumping deags,
yep.
And at the point that I looked over, everyone was using a deagle.
Yeah. Yeah, luckily it's not as crucial. I tested with the jumping dig as of while I was coding this stuff, and realized I was like, okay, cool. It's not like what we were worried about. So that's been taken out of the game. So we're not really concerned about that. So it's not this ridiculous jumping deagle that we saw on some of the videos that were out there where you had some aim maps where they were just jumping and digging and over and over and over again. That's scary. You don't want that. There's no question. Back in 1.3, one of the scariest parts about the deagle was bunny hopping. So you could fly around maps. It almost looked like you were playing Quake for a second, but you could use the deagle, and the deagle was so accurate right after you landed. But as we take a look, we're seeing this is the fly around for Nuke, kind of getting started there. At least we get to see a counter terrorist running around the map. That was cool. And then kind of seeing that, and then later on, Counter-Strike Source. I think Source was really impacted by the deagle as well. That was probably one of my biggest concerns because I was not a fan whenever I was doing play-by-play for Counter-Strike Source and seeing the deagle. The deagle's way too overpowered. Basically, you never knew. The gun rounds never mattered. And so right now, we're about done with the freeze time. We're waiting for, it looks like one of the players dropped out. They're already going to have to call a timeout. Yep, so we'll get this kind of figured out here in just a second. We're paying attention to the server, making sure that they're good. They both have wasted a timeout just to be able to slow this down a little bit on their side. So we'll take a look at that. We'll make sure we help these players out for a second. But I do see 10 players in the server at this point. Oh man.
Yeah, it looks like they both used a timeout there. There was actually a point where it was down to 3v3, so I'm not sure how that happened, but now we see -1s on the board as they disconnected and rejoined the server.
Yeah, it should. They all have their money as well, then we should see a. I think the scoreboards are definitely run, but we are in pistol round. We'll take a look at the setup here. Danny up on top of the rafters. We are, again, using the Face It, so if you see any names that populate over in the corner that are different from what you see on the screen, that is why. So there's Magister that has started this round with the Glock. They're heading over here towards the outside, challenging quickly. We got one CT over here towards lower. Magister takes out Chris. And wow, right now already Pitt, they've eliminated 3 players from the counter-terror side from Georgia Tech. And now Scotty is going to be hanging out here inside a hut. Ooh, nice quick little shot there, picking up Magister. Trying to exchange that one over into Perry, and that's just not going to happen. Missing shots there from Jay Park. Again, one of the things I want to bring back into everyone is the fact that Georgia Tech, they were scrambling to get their 5th to be able to join the server, so that was where their mindset was at just a moment ago, and so that's where we see how this game is at right now.
And that is the game that we are playing, but we are in it now, so it is 1-0 Pittsburgh. We see the Galils and AKs coming out with 1 MAC-10 as well for Stan. Taking the outside hit this time. We saw them go through here last time, and they made their rush, and they got all the way around getting to the A site. And now we see a pickup from them as they head outside as a 4v5, but making their way downstairs and now trying to get onto the B bomb site. They find one. They're going to chase him down. That's Lucas. He's not able to find Stan, taking the fight and now getting onto the site. The last one there is Danny. He's got to do the Alamo here and hold his ground. Actually, he's shared with a teammate in Scotty with the Bison. Not a gun you see very often there. And now Nate Swanson trying to poke around the AK. The bomb is down on site. So as much success they had getting there, they haven't been able to get on site, and the bomb now being down makes it a little more difficult. They got a minute on the timer, so they've got plenty of time to work with it. The Bison doing some work on the side of Scotty there. Now being taken down, and Danny cleaning it up with the P250.
So we'll be watching a couple of these rounds. There, some of it looks like the scoreboard has been glitched just because of how we started off this game. So we'll be mindful of that. Chris is, of course, not at -1. I think Perry shouldn't be at 0. I think he actually has gotten himself a kill as well. So we won't look too deep into kill deaths throughout this game, but other than unless it's a big number versus a little number. So Georgia Tech doing a great job picking up the second round. That's uncommon. You don't necessarily see that on a regular basis where a second round is picked up. So it's a good challenge. They elected to try to see if they could win. They wasted some money, and out of that, it's a big no-no sometimes. And you saw Pittsburgh. They actually bought themselves an AK, and one of the very scary things that you don't want to have happen is the counter-terrorist to pick that AK up, especially going into the third round. So they gave away an AK early. Now they're going to start pushing over here towards the ramp room. Chris has dropped one. He'll fall back. He has his teammate that was going to join him. That was Lucas. But here's Danny. How much damage can Danny do with the AK? We'll find out. Throws down a molly. They're going to pressure in him. Now there's going to be another one. Almost gets another one. But now they're going to be flanking back around. And I think they baited that ladder and seeing what they can pull up there. And an exchange, a trade. And there you go. Georgia Tech picking up a second round. They will go back. They'll keep the M4s. They think they were trying to search for the AK, but the after timer was not too long for them.
That it was not, so as you mentioned, no AKs to walk with, but still have some M4s. Some money starting to build somewhat on their side, and another pistol round coming out here for Pittsburgh. As you mentioned, Corey, Pittsburgh won the pistol round to start off the map, and then they lost, so putting him in a bad money situation. We're able to do a decent amount of damage last round, so at least not taking away, but getting some guns out of the hands of Georgia. Now, once again, we're seeing a slow hit. I don't think Nuke's one of those maps you ever really expect a faster hit, so I think this is what we're in for the course here. Now we see one player up on Silo. That is Magistar. Now he's being found by Jake Park, doing some good damage on the Jake Park, actually, with that Glock. Not something you'd expect from that long of range. Actually, I think he has the... No, he has a Glock. He doesn't have a P250, so able to at least find something onto Jay Park. Obviously, you don't want to take that fight against the M4, but now he's retreating back into place. We see one player playing in Garage. Anarcat trying to find his way around, but it's ultimately nothing coming out yet. But Scotty finding the first pick on to Stan.
A lot of time has passed. Like right now, Pittsburgh's just trying to poke and prod and see if they can find an opening. It's just not happening. Here comes the flashes over the top. Scotty is actually not going to be blinded there. He does take a P250 to the dome. And Tanner Cat, he's going to lose that fight against Lucas. And Perry, who's been here over towards the squeaky door this whole time, is now going to start the challenge. He will get dropped. I think he was looking for an opening so he could push through. The question was he going to go through the vents down to lower? I think it all would have mattered on what Tanner Cat and his teammates could have been able to do. It just didn't work out. 3-1. This will be our first real gun round that we'll see here. And one of the things that we'll look at, John, you asked me the question earlier. Do you need an AWP? We probably will find out. If Georgia Tech wins this round, we'll decide whether or not they're actually going to buy one. Here comes the nades coming in. This is going to be an aggressive push directly into the A side. Good execution so far.
A lot of
and
missed
there's
shots.
a nice 2 kills coming in from Nathan Swanson.
There's a lot of missed shots on the side of Perry, but his team was able to pick it up. There's 2 players in heaven now trying to get the retake. The bomb is down. They've got kits, and they've got plenty of time to work with, as well as they have a massive health advantage, so not even needing to land all these headshots. Just some buy shots will take care of it. Double swing out from heaven. They find 1, they find 2, and Danny finds 3. He's got a 4 in his name, but he's at 3 in the game. Actually, he's got 4 for himself.
He got 4 right
That's
there.
a nice 4K there from Danny. That is going to be the round for for Georgia Tech there. 4-2-1. That's the name of the game, Corey. That's what it was. I said 3. It was just that there was 3 4s in that round, with Danny having a 4 in his name, the 4K, and the 4th round for themselves.
Yeah, no, it was excellent for Danny to do work like that. He's sitting at 7-3 to our best of our knowledge. But again, he picked up the AK early in that second round, did some work with it. He lost it, and he was able to get an AK again. And the question was, who's going to be the opper? And it's going to be Danny. Let's go and hop over with Danny. Let's see what type of unique position he's playing. But the bomb's going over there towards the ramp. Let's go and switch back over there. Chris is already going to have to fall back. There is so much coming at him. There's going to be a nice little delay. He's got his teammates there. It's going to be able to help him out. So we'll see. They're starting to be able to push here towards the bomb site. There goes 1.
And that's the bomb. And look at it just rolling right on down. That has to hurt just a little bit. They've got to push forward. But it's on these pistols. I don't think they're expecting to win the round, but they take actually nothing. They're not even able to get Chris. He has 12 health there. So, Corey, I think the story of Ben is every time we've seen a pistol round, specifically Deagles, every single time, no matter the map, it's been a fast beat hit. So here's the take here from Chris. Seeing his teammates supporting him on over from the other side, finding 1, finding 2, and there you have it. Chris is the pit, excuse me, not the pit player, but the ramp player. It looks like for the size of Georgia. Solid defense so far, 5-1.
Yeah, J Park was already rotated down there to help out as well. So Scotty-O and Chris and J Park immediately rotating. That's something that was what you want to see. But of course, that was a Deagle save. Now we're seeing Op coming out here for Nathan.
We literally see it coming out here.
That's right. And so let's see. Danny's just, we of course see him on our side. And they're start to challenge each other.
He can see his head.
He does see him a little bit.
Oh, does he not want to take the shot?
Turn off the X-ray for a second.
You can absolutely. Yeah, you can see the head for so long.
So Nathan, he just waited for a while, long enough, and of course sometimes the POV takes the worst out of you. And so he had the angle, he could see it, he just didn't know. So that got that first opening. So J Park is going to try to force the hand a little bit further. He's already been very, very aggressive, but on the flip side, they've made their way up towards heaven.
And with that pick coming from Silo on the player outside, you've got to wonder now, where are they at? Are they trying to take B from CT? We have one player here in Magister in heaven. He's going to find Scotty. And it will take him out on the A side. Now you see the rotations coming over for the CTs. They're on the site. They're going to get the bomb down here shortly. Chris starting to rotate over, and J Park is watching heaven. No longer looks at it.
Yeah, he's going to give that up. That's a smart call. He already knows that Magister's up there, so he's going to take this out. And Magister is now challenging, but he's not focusing here on now. It's going to be that exchange here. He comes way up. Nice play there. Able to kind of push his way up there towards the ball. But he needs to have his teammate help him out there. Have that clearing. There's Chris. Again, one that might blind his teammate for a second, but they're still pushing it down to a 3-on-1. Nice attempt to already go ahead and get that bomb defused. That bomb defused, and they will try to eliminate and try to spray and pray. He gets away with 21 health so far, and he does. He does. 6-1 now in favor of Georgia Tech.
Smart play there from J Park, recognizing they knew where the last player was at in Stan, right inside there on the hub. 2 other players on the team, and he has a favorable position. So the second he comes out, they're going to just gun him down. If not, he's able to get off the bomb, has the kid, has plenty of time. Great teamwork coming here from Georgia Tech. And once again, we're seeing this setup from Danny on heaven with that AWP.
All right, let's see. You've got Chris still holding down over here towards the ramp room. It looks like they're setting up for a little bit of a default spread across the map, trying to bait out a couple smokes and flashes before they execute. All right, player. That's Scotty gonna take out one. That was Hannercat. And so they're still trying to work this outside. They're just not winning these gunfights. As Lucas dropping Magister this time. There is one lurking about here just around the corner. Danny's going to hold this angle while Chris is going to come up. His timing is just not going to work out for Chris. And there's going to miss that opening. Here comes the flash. Oh, there's a smoke. Luckily enough for Danny, that wasn't a flash. Because he definitely would have been completely blind. Now peeking out with the AUG is going to be J Park.
Gets traded by Stan, and that is going to give them the sight. Actually, they don't want to take it just yet. They're not confident that there aren't any other CTs here. They could have had the bomb down right now, and they've got to move quickly as the rotation's coming through. Pierre and Stan working together, maybe not ready for one player coming outside, and that is Scotty. We now falling on with Danny, who's upstairs. And it looks like they're actually, maybe they're just waiting for the rotation from A here, but they're splitting their focuses. Now we see with the bomb carrier and Stan trying to push on site.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's he has the bomb, and he's they had the sight. I'm not sure what they were going for there. They don't even have time. If you're Stan here, you just try to stay alive. He's making a lot of noise. Actually, no, he's just trying to, he wants the guy to get the money. Yep.
Yeah, they want it. Well, he could have been in a good situation either way. I mean, I think having an AK would have been okay. Let's see where his current situations to Stan. Stan Z is he was sitting pretty, but the round bonus was definitely a lot. So
to hop back to last round, I think that was a moment where they definitely got too much into their own heads. They had the B bomb site. The CTs actually weren't even close. The closest player being, I think, on the A site that actually took down the bomb, and then the other player was playing in heaven with the last one playing near outside at the stairs. And so they had the bomb site. I think they just thought to themselves, well, maybe they're just holding their angles. We don't want to test it. But now they're pushing out onto ramp. Chris taking a different angle. He finds one, he finds two, and he finds the bomb. That's the important part here. Only Deagle's left. Chris finds a third. Danny able to support. And now it is all down to Hannercat with a Deagle and a Dream. He's got armor, and he's got one smoke to his name. But he no longer has any health, and that's going to be the round number 8 for Georgia.
Man, 8 rounds in a row. As we take another look from Chris's angle, they just flood into just a series of bullets coming through, and that's going to wrap up how that round went. 8-1 in favor of Georgia Tech. Pittsburgh won the pistol round, and they have not seen the light of day since. Here comes some smokes and flashes. They had a good execute one round. They did get the bomb planted. Now Danny sees the edge of it. Oh, just misses that off shot.
I think he just moved when he
fires in
fired
a good
that.
spot. Yep, he drops it perfectly, and Nathan is out of the round.
But with that, the bomb does go down. Oh, he sees the gun on the last player. There is Stan. He hits the shot, but it's a leg shot, so Stan's still standing at 12 HP. Able to do some damage with that. Danny finding the hit now. It is all up to him. He's got the kit. He's got the damage, but now the Molotov's going to push him forward aggressively. He finds the leg hit. That's all he needed to get an opening. He's now on the site. It is a 2v1. Almost finding the swing, but Magistar a little bit too quick for him. Danny, let's just say he hits that round at the beginning when they're starting to take the site. That's a completely different round. But in the favor of Pittsburgh now, in 8-2, they find their second round.
It took a while. Just needed to call them out on it before they could pick it up. So, good execute, great plan. That's what Nuke's all about. Trying to do default setups or trying to do pistol rushes towards an area. I think Chris is playing ramp room very, very well. He's gonna fall. Oh, he dies to a Hannercat. Danny has been smoked off. They're going to go ahead and execute down here towards lower. There has not been a proper rotation yet. Escadio is down here, and he's going to get eliminated there by Nathan.
Bomb has been planted.
That is a free B bomb site. So as we were mentioning, Corey, the A hits have been pivotal here for Pittsburgh as they have not worked out. But every time they've gone to B, they've either had the site or they've gone the bomb
The previous
down so
round
far.
to A was a good solid execute.
Oh, it absolutely was, and I'm not taking that away from them. That was only one round they got, though, in the comparison of 8.
I think before they were challenging outside way too much, and now they're just leveraging the back. But, you know, down to a one-on-one stand, and there's Danny. Danny was trying again. He's trying to see what he can do. Georgia Tech doing a great job for causing so much wreckage, but they do lose the round. 8-3 now. But one of the things I'd look at is they're executing. Pittsburgh was executing on the outside, and they just were not having any luck. And then when they started doing some really solid executions towards ramp or towards the B bomb site, taking out Chris was a nice opening start here. Now we'll see what they do here on the outside. The difference is to this situation is Danny does not have an off to help support his teammates. And so they'll see if they can leverage this chance. But Lucas picks up one there.
And of course, we haven't seen any of those smokes leading to downstairs, but Lucas finding another pick. That has to hurt if you're Magistar. He had the flick, or excuse me, he had the rotation on over. Now J Park coming out from stairs, finding one and finding two. Leaving it all down to Stan, and he has a mighty task in front of him as J Park finds a 3K and finds himself an AK. That's round number 9 for the side of Georgia Tech.
So I want to take a moment right here. We're going to watch it from J Park's viewpoint as he picks up these last few. But what really happened, the reason why J Park was able to have a successful round right there was because Lucas, he got those initial 2 kills. He could have kept trying to get eliminations, but he elected to toy with them behind the box. He took all the focus away. So they were all paying attention just to Lucas. Lucas knew that he was in a tough situation, and he didn't want to just give himself up. By him being there, just having presence, was allowed J Park to then come in from the flank side and pick up those kills. So huge kudos to Lucas to make the job easier on J Park. But the reality is J Park did execute on that final part. So 9-3 in favor of Georgia Tech on the CT-sided nuke.
And I like this adjustment here, perhaps predicting that pistols that are smaller bios coming down. Every time we've seen them with pistols, they've gone B. So they're actually playing 2 players, Ramp and J Park and Chris now. Starting to stand outside in lobby A, and they're making their way over towards Ramp. They're going to be met with 2 players, and Chris and J Park. J Park showing the first, and now Chris boosts it up. Or excuse me, that's Danny on the other side. That's X-Ray. But now they're just handling calmly. J Park going down, and Magister actually able to find 2. He's not able to find 3, however. He's going to be able to get some money for himself, but that's going to close it out 10-3 in favor of Georgia Tech. I just don't think that B hit has worked out for them very much, but it seems like when they find the one opening, they certainly were not prepared for 2 players here.
Yeah, watching how they execute has been awesome. Seeing them hold those angles, getting into those rounds, it's been good. Chris and J Park have been working extremely well with one another over there towards ramp. You're seeing some quick rotates happen. This time they know that they had a good solid shutdown. Danny on the outside, shooting at some clay pigeons. He's dropped one. He's got another one he has to worry about. Good flick while his teammates were able to flash them out. And Danny, I was about to say, Danny had survived long enough. But he does fall, and he does not. Yeah, this will be the final round of the first half. They'll drop him in AWP, but 11-3 right now. So as I said before, this is really a 10-5 type map, and I was concerned for Georgia Tech off the pistol round just because it just went all Pittsburgh's way. But ever since that point, they have proved themselves, especially with that shock and awe tactic on the second round. And taking that one, then going on an 8-round streak in this game. So we'll see what Pittsburgh do. Scottio, he's going to lose the fight there. And there's another one that falls. The upper bomb site, A bomb site, is clear. And J Park, who's going to be on the flank, he's going to get taken out.
His scoreline is still 11-3, so this could have been some great momentum getting some more rounds, but if they get this round, they will finish the half at 11-4. So now we see it's left to Lucas and Chris. Chris coming around from the B side, not ready for Magister, and that's going to be 1. Lucas has 16 health less to his name, and there is 4 players on site knowing his position. He's got a mighty task ahead of him. He's going to find 1, but the 1 finds him first. 11-4 in the favor of Georgia Tech as we switch sides here, Corey. And yesterday we saw a 12-3. And that was a full comeback on Train. Different teams, different setting. We know that comebacks are possible, but how do you feel with 11-4? You've been talking about this as a 9-6, 10-5.
It's close to a 10-5, yeah. So it's not too bad. It does make a difference. Usually whenever you're on the flip side, you need to ensure that you win another pistol round, but you have to have a continuation on your pistol round. So we'll see what they do here. On the opposite side, full rush towards ramp room. That's going to be going up against, I believe that's Hannercat. And there's going to be Stan Zeet on the opposite side. They're fighting, and there's going to be Hannercat's going to hightail it out of there. He's going to give up that lower side so they can push in, but Hannercat is going to get eliminated by J Park. Magister on the rotate. Danny's going to try to get out of there. I don't know if he can, and he does. And he will not be able to do anything with it, though. 2 on 3. Bomb planted in the lower bomb site, and they're quickly rotating around. J Park going to see if he can get over there towards those double doors. He does, and he gets that, takes out Magister. And this is a great play. What they're doing is they're actually sandwiching on both sides of the bomb site. And there you have it. They're almost down to this. Yep, they are down to this one-on-one. He's going to try to be able to play a game of cat and mouse, running away from this one. He's going to hear the defuse. He does have a kit. He does have time, but he pulls away from the bomb, and he's going to toy with him again, chasing after him. Smart play, and he has been able to stay alive just long enough to allow this bomb to explode. He's done his job, and he's going to do even more. Great job. I think Perry should have stuck it at that point. He did hear the footsteps running, but if there's some points where you have to either A, hope that you can make your shots, or B, you just have to rely on them to miss their shots. So 12-4, Georgia Tech. Great pistol round. I think it's going to be tough now. Pittsburgh, they looks like they're going to have a couple submachine guns here. Man, whew, that was a great pistol round coming in from Georgia Tech.
Yeah, that stick could have been the difference between a few rounds for Pittsburgh and the map for Georgia Tech. So making a quick rush to outside. No one even sees them going. Actually, there is one, and that is Lucas finding the one tap onto J Park, and now Lucas being taken down. Or excuse me, I had that backwards. That was Nathan Swanson finding the pick, and then Lucas finding the return. Now we're on with Danny staying in lobby, making sure there's no rotations coming around. Scotty hasn't quite making his way down the stairs just yet onto the B site. Lucas trying to find some information where he can, looking for anyone outside, looking for anything. It's been very quiet on the side for Pittsburgh. No over rotations just yet. Not seeing a lot of movement, but we're seeing 2 players now starting to make their way into lobby. They're going to be met by Danny, who's going to see one, and he's going to see the other one in Stan. He takes down Magister with ease, but is not needing to take the second fight. He knows the player's there, and he knows he's holding it with an eagle. Doesn't want to get one tapped. As in the background, Scotty will take down Pierre, and Lucas is now taking on Heaven. Danny trying to push onto site, and there's the last one left in Stan, and that's exactly why he didn't want to push out, didn't want his head taken off. But on the flip side, Scotty returning the favor, so 13-4. And the money in bad position for Pittsburgh. Looks like they're actually even going to force with an MP7 coming out immediately for Magister. I think at this point, with that position right there, it looks like they're playing for overtime if they're doing that.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to be able to take away weapons, and try to at least get one out of it to be able to have some type of rebuttal. But if currently you see Georgia Tech, they're playing some defaults, making sure that they don't see any quick rushes or some nade sets flying out their way. They're just waiting this out. Now, on the flip side, Pittsburgh is trying to play this close quarters game and try to rely on the fact that they may not have any head armor. But looks like Georgia Tech is trying to play for the win. Scout's coming out, and he misses the first one. Yep, he's still going to try to continue to challenge him. Still misses that shot. There's going to be a lot of little battles around this map.
And that's turning into a 5v4. J Park trying to push Squeaky. A nice pick there from Lucas. That's the player on top of Hut. Now they're going to run onto the site. They know once it's Heaven, getting the Molotov there.
Yeah, he's already out.
And now it's down to Stan and Hanakat. Stan finding one. Hanakat going down, and now Stan going down. That is 14 on the board for Georgia Tech. The money, once again, in a very bad position here for Pittsburgh. At this point, you would think that they would try to just get around that 2,000 mark and then play for overtime, and that's what we saw. Oh, no, they're forcing again. We're seeing the scout coming out for Nate Swatson. I'm not sure if I agree with this, Corey. They're not having a full gun round. They're not giving the full potential on the CT side. We saw so much magic coming through for Georgia Tech, and it seems like they're just trying to force everything they can. Now the smoke execute coming out outside. A little early on the shot, but Danny doing a lot of damage onto Stan. J Park also finding another Pierre. Now it seems like all those smokes for outside were just to perhaps get some rotations over, and they're slowly making their way on over to B. Jay Park's in a pretty forward position here, trying to catch anyone on the other side of trying to catch on outside, and Handercat might see it all. But Danny finding Magister in the meantime, and now it looks like they're just making their rotation over to A. After finding that pick, no need to make it longer than it needs to be. They find the one player in heaven, and it's all down to Handercat and a USP. Core, he's got 4 people ahead of him, all with head armor. The USP is great for pistol rounds, but not great in positions where your opponents have helmets.
Yeah, he's going to be trying to look and see if he can find a weapon from Scotty. See if there's anything that he can pick up at least to be able to help out. Now, Nathan's going to try to tell him where he was last out. Nice job. He has found himself a CZ, but he did just waste a flash along the way, so they know exactly where he's at. There's no reason for them to really chase him down other than the fact that he might be able to get himself a CZ and take out an AK and pick that up, and he could cause some damage. But they do. They find him. They eliminate him. 15-4, and we're at match point already for Georgia Tech. And so if Georgia Tech wins this round, they'll go on to the upper bracket finals in Group C, and they'll be facing off against VCU.
Pretty strong performance here if you're Georgia Tech. You have to be happy with everything that you've done in this map so far. Absolutely commanding side on CT, and even almost seemingly a better half. We're not going to see much of it so far, but they've been playing very solid, very good teamwork. I would say the rotations and crossfires have been always assisting in the sense of every time they have one teammate going down, they're either followed by a trade. They didn't really set themselves up for positions to lose many gunfights. So
Danny was playing a nice. You saw him actually changing his position, taking a look exactly where he knows where his spam spots are going to be at. So he's actually lining himself up completely. The fact that he has enough time to even think about doing something like that to get his lining up inside a lobby means that he feels so confident that they're not going to push into lobby. And so now J Park picking up the first one into ramp, and this is just a slow play game. We're just waiting. They're waiting for Pittsburgh to make a mistake, not necessarily waiting for them to do something positive here. And J Park takes the right route. He's going all the way around. The downside is Magister is actually on the catwalk on lower B bomb site. There's the smoke. The initial is going to slow them down if they decided to be able to rotate. Let's go back over here to J Park and see where he's walking towards. So he's still creeping around. He's been clearing out everything. Now he opens the door. Now he gives away his position, and he will get dropped there by Magister.
But that is the rest of the team to follow. They know where Magister's at, and they know that that's the only one on the site. So that is the bomb going down. Reminder, this is match point, as this is a best of 1 in this series to see who goes against VCU in the next round. Advance the playoffs. Chris finding one on to the CT side is now a 3v1. Pierre's got a task for himself. He's got a kit. He's going to know where one's at, but he doesn't know where the rest are at. And that is an instant headshot there from Chris, the player from Ramp, able to do it on the T side. 16-4. Good showing there from Georgia Tech. And Pittsburgh going down to the losers bracket, in which they will have to fight their way out.
Yeah, 16-4. Watching how that game played, I mean, it was full control by Georgia Tech. If you look back at the pick bans, it was up to Georgia Tech of whether they wanted to ban Mirage or ban Nuke, and you saw it. Their comfort level with Nuke was above and beyond. The only round that they really was a mission critical, the one that they lost, was the pistol round in the very first half, and that's where you thought that you could take a look at it and see how that one was going to play. And in the end, you've got Georgia Tech. They're going to face off. They're going to move on. They're going to play against VCU, and in that matchup, it's going to be who's going to be going into the playoffs after this.
Exactly, and that is a great call out there. And I would say, you know, we talked about VCU having that bye, being the top seed in this bracket, so maybe they've got some star players behind them. But from what we saw of Georgia Tech, that's going to be a competitive match. Sure, it's a best of 1, so we might not see the full series between the two teams. I think we would love to see that, but I think still we're going to see a great match. I think the bans here were interesting enough for me to think that Georgia Tech's got a pretty vast map pool that they can play with, because Nuke, like we mentioned, is one of those maps we haven't seen quite yet in this tournament, but they had great executes and they had great teamwork all the way through.
Yeah, one of the star players that we noticed from that game was Danny. I mean, how well did Danny play off the start? I mean, he got himself an AK going in after that second round. I throw it back to, I mean, Pittsburgh buying AKs, at least buying a singular AK, in the second round, that's sometimes a no-no. You don't want to give the opponent a weapon of that caliber. And that's what ended up happening is an AK was in the hands of Danny. Now, did he do anything with it the following round? No. But could he have? That's the real question that comes into play for us. But then later on, Danny just started going off. We now know who their main opera is. We actually saw some really good rotates. I think a lot of his teammates started warming up as well. So it was a good game to watch, and it actually told us a lot about Georgia Tech. I don't think we learned a lot about Pittsburgh though. That's where I'm challenged right now.
It seems like a lot of their players didn't quite come online, as you mentioned, so we'll have to follow them through in the losers bracket, and it seems like they just might not have been as comfortable on Nuke.
That's a high percentage chance.
But if you're not that comfortable on Nuke, I wouldn't imagine you want to let it get that far through the ban phase. And for instance, I would think Overpass is probably a little bit closer to those fundamental maps we talk about. Maybe they might feel more comfortable on that. They'll be in a best of 3, so we'll be able to see at least more maps from them then. And so I think something I wanted to call was Jay Park was something very similar we saw yesterday with Miami University of Ohio was Glaze. Very similar fashion of play style. We saw a lot of rotations and always that guy in the flank just being annoying. And that's exactly what we saw from Jay Park. Always finding one guy and then kept going with it. Didn't want to stop. He wanted to take advantage of every opening he could, and that's what we saw from Jay Park. And I think just really great chemistry all around. Chris being the anchor on the B ramp, and then Danny holding it down with the AWP from heaven. It seems like everyone knew exactly where they needed to be at, and it's going to be a very interesting series coming up next.
All right, so we've now figured out who's going to be in our upper bracket finals for Group C. We'll see how this one plays out, though. VCU will be facing off against Georgia Tech. Winner of this best-of-1 will be advancing into the playoffs, and we'll hear from them after that match. Whoever wins that matchup, we'll kind of get their insight of what they are. But we have to get through the map first. We'll just figure out where those are. We will stay true to our schedule, and we'll be kicking that game off at, I believe that would be 2 p.m. Central Time. So stay with us. We'll be back here shortly enough, and we'll be covering that matchup, VCU versus Georgia Tech, coming up after the break.
We're not too fair.